That's probably the most likely thing, but there's no guarantee here. This may be the reason that George Russell doesn't have a contract for next year. If you think about that, the guy who won the race just 3 days ago. So, the fact that he doesn't, and I think maybe there's a little bit of Toto Wolff holding out that he might get Max Verstappen. But the most likely thing is that he end up with Red Bull again, that Max would. But let's not forget that Max has dropped the hints at retiring. He's got 4 championships under his belt. I mean, the guy could walk away from the sport and be one of the greatest of all time right now.
Welcome back to the Sportsnaut interview. The topic on the table today, Formula One racing. Yes, we're going to talk about that in depth today. And joining us, we have John Massengale, founder and host of Speed City Broadcasting. They're the content provider of F1 content on SiriusXM, heard on ESPN Extra Channel 81 on said SiriusXM, now in their 8th year doing F1 on SiriusXM, based in Austin, Texas, of course, home to one of the best circuits in all of racing, and that, of course, is Circuit of the Americas. John, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's jump in, John. We just got finished with the Canadian Grand Prix. It served up another dose of drama for Ferrari, with both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton crossing the finish line 5th and 6th, respectively, and Fred Vasseur, the team principal, having to defend the team amidst this intense scrutiny from, guess who? The Italian media. And Leclerc admitted himself that, qualifying mistakes, his crash in FP1 were not helpful, while Hamilton, surprisingly, or I guess not so surprisingly if you've been following, noted he's still not at one with his Ferrari after coming over from Mercedes. What's your take on the current state of Ferrari, and how much of their ongoing struggles do you think are more about leadership, strategic choices, or the car itself, especially after Mercedes now leapfrogged them in the Constructors' Championship?
I'd probably lean towards the car right now. Look, Ferrari is still fast, right? They're still up there in the hunt for, I'm going to call it second in the Constructors' Championship, because McLaren's pretty much got it wrapped up. But the fact that they're still up there, still fighting, and but I'd have to say the car, yes. The Italian media came out with some criticism, maybe even saying Fred Vasseur's job is in trouble. But I feel like Fred's done a pretty good job. They've had a couple of mistakes, missteps. They had the Chinese Grand Prix where they had a double disqualification, a couple of different little problems that they had. But overall, I would say Ferrari is way better than they used to be. I mean, look, it used to be a running joke how many mistakes they made. But I would say right now, it's really hard for every team to get the car just right for every generation of car. And they've done good. The car's fast. It's just not up there right now with McLaren or potentially Mercedes.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I've said the same thing, John, with Vasseur, because it seems as though in our hyperly connected social media world, it doesn't matter if it's Formula One, if it's NASCAR, if it's IndyCar, if it's baseball, football, whatever your sport is, the call to get rid of somebody when results aren't what you want them to be. And of course, Vasseur, the same thing. And that stability, I mean, you had Lewis Hamilton say, he's one of the reasons why I went to Ferrari. But still, as you pointed out, that gap between them and McLaren is pretty large. How much time do you think this is going to need for them? And we obviously going into 2026 with the changes here, but what's the realistic timeline for that vision that Fred has for that team and for Leclerc and for Hamilton to actually come to fruition?
Okay, I got some good news for Ferrari fans. We've seen all year long, we've seen like just Alonso, right? Aston Martin made a change to the car. Now he scored points 2 in a row. Nico Hülkenberg, same thing. So you never know. In Formula One, they particularly right now, the times are so tight, a tiny change could all of a sudden have Ferrari battling for wins. We don't know. We don't know what they've got planned. So it could happen. I'm not saying I'm predicting it. I'm just saying it could happen. So yeah, and look, there's no more scrutiny than on any team than Ferrari. We know that, right? Formula One is not Formula One without Ferrari, and there's no team that's going to get the scrutiny, get the criticism if everything is not going. If they're not winning races, somebody is not happy, right? It's Ferrari.
Yes, and my own Italian lineage, I can tell you, my relatives, that Italian passion comes out very strongly when they don't do well. Well, we'll see how it goes and see what they're able to do as we roll into round 11. But hey, McLaren, you mentioned them, and of course we saw a dramatic collision, although it was dramatic, but not so dramatic, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri during the closing stages of the Canadian Grand Prix. And that was with 3 laps left. And if we've seen McLaren just all season be out there, but Lando Norris now misjudged. He said he misjudged the pass to take a look. He took full blame for it, but it resulted in a loss for points for McLaren. With you look at this in the driver standings, 22 points separate those 2 McLaren drivers at the top of the drivers' championship. How do you foresee the intense rivalry between these 2 teammates? I think it's just going to get more intense as it plays out. But what's it like in your mind? How's this going to work out? And how do you think, in all your years watching the sport and covering the sport, how does this work out for them? And how do the drivers handle it?
Well, first of all, that few laps, those few turns right before the crash, Lando Norris made a tremendous move into turn 10 at the hairpin
Oh, yeah.
and caught Oscar Piastri off guard. And then he said it, he made a mistake, but he went for a gap that really wasn't there. But to your point, to your question, the fact that we knew that this was going to start happening, right? That they're going to get closer and closer. There's going to be times they're going to come together. But the way Lando immediately took blame, immediately, literally on the radio, right there in the heat of the moment, took the blame for the crash. If you listen to Andrea Stella, the team principal, after the race, he said that was crucial for the team harmony, because that's something that team has got it right now. They've got 2 of the best, right? Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are, you could argue, are 2 and 3 behind Max, let's say, in the top, if you were to rank the drivers. So that's a tough place to be, right? You've got both drivers scoring points every race. And what Lando did by saying, that was my fault, no question. The good news is, all of us who watched it, it was clearly his fault. He just made a mistake. It happens. The fact that he did that, I think that's going to help the team going forward and keep the harmony, because we've all seen when that goes south, that can be disruptive across the entire team.
Yeah, no question about it. You mentioned Max Verstappen, of course, as I believe, and I think most people who pay attention to the sport, whether they like him or not, still the best driver in F1. How do you see this working out with Red Bull? You know, we've heard grumblings about him leaving Red Bull. We heard about Aston Martin, obviously, with the new investment happening over there. How do you see Max Verstappen going? Do you see them coming up with a long-term deal for him at Red Bull, him staying where he's at as they work to improve that car? We know he's mentioned several times this year in his own way about some issues with the car. How does that work out?
You know, that's probably the most likely thing, but there's no guarantee here. This may be the reason that George Russell doesn't have a contract for next year. If you think
Right.
about that, the guy who won the race just 3 days ago. So, the fact that he doesn't, and I think maybe there's a little bit of Toto Wolff holding out that he might get Max Verstappen. But the most likely thing is that he end up with Red Bull again, but that Max would. But let's not forget that Max has dropped hints at retiring. He's got 4 championships under his belt. I mean, the guy could walk away from the sport and be one of the greatest of all time right now. And he loves sports car racing. He did some sports car testing the day after the race. That's why he wasn't in New York City for the F1 movie red carpet premiere. So, we just don't know yet. There's no predicting that.
Yeah, I saw his new yacht when they were in Monaco, because it was there, of course, with the rest of them. And boy, it'd be tempting for me to just spend time on the yacht away from the sport. But speaking of the sport, one of the things that we've covered here at Sportsnaut, and we continue to talk about, and I think it's a big story, is F1's growth in the United States. We just saw yesterday the 2025 Canadian Grand Prix achieved its highest viewership in America at 1.9 million viewers for the race portion only. and that's the largest audience ever for the event in the U.S. And it went past last year just by 100,000 or so. And it's not an isolated incident. Now, if you look at it, John, 9 of 10 F1 races this season have seen year-over-year viewership increases, with 5 setting event records. From your perspective and your long experience, of course, in motorsports, what are the key drivers behind the growth of F1 in America, and how might this growth stateside impact the future direction of the sport globally?
Well, we have to back up a little bit because Liberty Media, an American company, bought the sport in 2017 and then immediately agreed to do something called Drive to Survive, which, if you follow the sport at all, you know that has been a huge Netflix show, right? The ratings are huge. That by far has been the number one driver, but no pun intended. But the real thing is that the sport is paying attention and trying to make the racing better, because Formula One can get so into the weeds with making the technology, bleeding edge. And some of us, that's what we are drawn to the sport for. But Drive to Survive, and now this movie with Brad Pitt, this looks to be a big summer blockbuster. This could just be another shot of adrenaline for the sport. And the ratings have just they've more than doubled since Drive to Survive came out. And now it's becoming a part of American culture. I mean, I remember years ago, people didn't even know what's the difference between, how is that different from NASCAR? And now everybody knows what Formula was here is in the United States. And being here in Austin, I saw it. I'd go to a restaurant, the waitress or waiter didn't know they didn't even know we had a Formula One track in Austin. And now, the biggest change I've seen, young females.
Yes.
And I have a daughter who's 20, and all her friends, they all know who Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, yes, young, good-looking Formula One drivers in this, in this sport that's glitzy and glamorous. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, in fact, we had a guest here several weeks ago, an online influencer, F1 influencer female, and we went through the growth with young women, and really she credited the fact that when Liberty bought F1, that they adopted and embraced social media. You talked, of course, about the Netflix series Drive to Survive, which was massive, 100% true. But then the social media piece, they're connecting where young women congregate. And you're right, yes, young, good-looking guys driving those cars, but the style, the culture, all of that stuff has really kind of gained momentum. And I think that's why we've seen American, especially women, go right towards the sport and just shown the growth in the United States. Also, though, clearly they've done a great job too with coverage on SiriusXM, the show you guys do, but also YouTube, and they stream things. Obviously, the time difference sometimes can be difficult for American audiences. One thing I've noticed, and I want to get your reaction to this, we're both Americans. When I interact with F1 fans and folks across the world, I'm starting to feel a little bit of rub with the Europeans, because of course you have the 3 races now in the United States. Miami was just extended, Vegas was extended for 2 years, and of course you have Austin, and then we just had Canada. So you count those 4 in North America, and I feel like a lot of the European fans are feeling like F1 is getting away from its history. How do you think that is? How do you think that the increase in American ownership, the increase in American races and new circuits, how is that changing the sport, and how do you see that working out?
Well, you're absolutely right. Some of the diehard fans, nobody likes change, right? And they're seeing their sport change, right? The Americanization of Formula One is a big topic in some circles, let's put it that way. Now, everybody does like the fact that the TV viewership is up, the attendance at the races. I mean, here in Austin, we get 430,000, something like that. And it's that way all over the world. And a lot of that has to do with what Liberty has done. Like, you talk about social media, the bar was pretty low because the previous ownership of Formula One didn't allow social media. I know that sounds insane, right, nowadays, but so they had a very easy bar to raise it, but they've done a great job. But as far as how that affects the sport, I think people are willing to tolerate the European diehard fans. They're willing to tolerate what the Americanization of it is, because yeah, they don't really like our in your face style and the big, fireworks kinds of shows. They want, they want their sport the way it always has been. But I think they're tolerating it because of the positives that it's bringing, the money that it's bringing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. And also, I mean, I think that Miami seems to be the crux of a lot of their argument, right? A circuit that's created outside this football stadium. It just seems odd. Unlike Vegas, which is obviously, I know some people don't like it, but it's starting to work out really nicely there too, as a backdrop going right down the Las Vegas Strip and through all that neon. But do you see them ever adding a fourth race over here, or do you think that's just a bridge too far?
I think it's possible. Going back to Vegas, everybody, all the diehards, the Europeans, that they wanted to hate Las Vegas and they wanted it to be a horrible race. And the first race out of the box was brilliant. It was a fantastic race. And everybody, we had a little struggle in free practice one with the drain cover, the first race and all that. And everybody tried to make such a big deal of that. But then all of that was lost because the racing was fantastic. The cool temperatures threw a variable in that we're not used to, because it's cold in Vegas. Believe me,
Yes.
when at night and at that time of year, it is cold. And so anyway, Vegas has just killed it. Miami's done a great job. And now Austin, everybody's talking about Austin being one of the old school, back to the hard-nosed racing circuits. And so we've got a pretty cool mix, and it's pretty hard to argue with the results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it would be great to have another race here, but hey, if it's 3, I'm happy with that. And then you add in Canada, now extended, and you got 4 in North America. That's pretty cool for fans over here. All right, so you talked about earlier the F1 movie, and I think this is a really big deal because the F1 movie, of course, Brad Pitt, Lewis Hamilton of Ferrari now produced this along with Jerry Bruckheimer. And I think this is the type of movie that not only is going to be a good movie. You look at the director, was a guy who did the second Top Gun movie. I mean, there's bona fide rock stars in this. The way they shot the movie is incredible. All new technology to put you in the car and around the car. But talk about the significance of this movie. It's going to be the big summer blockbuster. There's no question. Reviews are already very positive for it. But this is the kind of thing, too, that I think is just going to continue to bust open F1 to American audience. And then not only that, but it's also going to keep the popularity with the international audiences as well.
I know. It's just another shot of adrenaline into the sport. I don't know the impact, but we interviewed one team principal, James Vowles, and he was like, it's going to be bigger than Drive to Survive. And I thought, oh my gosh, if it is, I mean, that would be crazy. I think that's maybe exuberance, but James Vowles is a pretty smart guy, so we'll see. But the movie, yes, it's Brad Pitt. It's Joe Kosinski, the director, and Jerry Bruckheimer. I mean, we're talking big Hollywood names. And the red carpet they had in New York City last night, it was huge. And I watched 2 hours of that coverage. Believe it or not, I watched all of that. It was pretty cool. But I think it's going to be nothing but positive, right? So we'll see how big. The reviews are coming in good, not all 100% good. They're never going to be. And diehard F1 fans, they're going to find problems with it because this is Hollywood. It's a dramatization, right? It's not, actual racing. But I think some of the F1 fans I just talked to Chris Medlin, one of our show hosts, and he got to see it, and I'm going to see it next week. And he said that there's lots of good input from Lewis Hamilton because he kept it accurate as you could, being a Hollywood movie. So all of us diehards are going to like that part of it. So I think it's going to be great for the sport.
Yeah, it's impossible to make it exactly 100% accurate unless you're actually sitting in the car and doing it for real. So I'm excited about that. But that's like you said, every Hollywood movie takes some liberties, and I think it's good as long as you're entertained. If you're an F1 fan, and even if you're not an F1 fan, it might make you one because you're going to see the excitement around the sport. And everything I've read about it, John, is about it captures not only the racing aspect of it, which is most of us are excited about, but also what you were talking about earlier, the glitz, the glam, all the stuff that happens, and the competitiveness of the sport too as well. John, before we go, let everybody know how they can reach out to you, listen to you, and find you.
Sure. You can go to our website. It's probably the best place to start, speedcitybroadcast.com. But you can hear us on SiriusXM. We do a Saturday post-qualifying or post-sprint every Grand Prix weekend. And we also do the pre- and post-race show and all on SiriusXM. And all of that is on ESPN Extra Channel 81. And also the SiriusXM Wheel-to-Wheel show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Chris Medlin and I do that show. But yeah, Scott, thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you being on. Chris, another great guy as well. So if you want to know about motorsports, F1 in particular in this case, make sure you listen to those. And we'll list all of those down below in the description of the podcast and of the video. John, take care, and let's get ready for Austria.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we will close out this edition of the Sportsnaut interview. Don't go anywhere. All right, there you have it. Thanks again to John Massengale. Just a great guy covering all of motorsports, but especially when it comes to F1. And if you want to make sure you listen to John, great show over on SiriusXM. Make sure you listen to Speed City on ESPN Extra Channel 81 on SiriusXM. Of course, you can stream it on their app, or you can listen over in your car. Imagine that, driving and listening to motorsports. Who does that? But good stuff. And he's down there in Austin, Texas, a really good brand. But man, so many great discussion there. The stuff about Ferrari, you got to give Ferrari patience here. Lewis Hamilton, I know a lot was expected to him, a lot of talk about him being over the hill. Has he lost it? I don't think so. I think it has a lot to do, as John said, with the car and bringing the vision together. Now they're going to have, with the new regulations in 2026 in Formula One, they're going to have an opportunity, I think, Ferrari to kind of start from scratch. They've been developing the car. Hamilton's been there for development this year, as well as Charles Leclerc. So to me, it's going to be a little more patient. If this happens again next year and you don't see any improvements, then it might get a little dicey there. But the competition with the McLaren boys, Piastri and Norris, and of course, the ever-present Max Verstappen. Great subjects there, as well as the F1 movie. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited about the F1 movie. I'm going to go see it that first day it's open. I don't know I'm going to spend $38 for the F1 helmet popcorn bucket. Tell me what you think of that. That's a lot of money for a popcorn bucket. It doesn't even look that big. So I don't know. Look, some people buy every souvenir. I think I'm going to skip that one. I'll just sit there with my red vines and a regular popcorn bucket that my wife and I are sharing as we watch it. Anyway, very excited about that movie opening up on the 25th. So get ready for that. Do us a favor. If you don't already subscribe to the Sportsnaut interview podcast, please do so. We cover everything here, as you obviously see, F1 to Major League Baseball, to WNBA, to the NFL, to you name it, golf, horse racing. We got it all here. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your audio. Please do us a favor, rate and review if you could. And if you're watching us on video, give us that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notifications bell. For everybody here at Sportsnaut, this has been the Sportsnaut interview. I'm Scott Branson. We'll catch you next time.